What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. We've been talking about EA and this Need for Speed Hot Pursuit remastered game for like this entire year now, it feels. Well, they finally announced it, which is great. We can talk about the pricing, platform, release date, extra features, all of this. But then something else strange happened. It went live for some reason, like for people to download on the eShop in a certain region. We're gonna go over that here today. Also, it does appear that there's been a change made for the PlayStation 5 in Japan that has gamers there kind of annoyed around it, and it looks like Cyberpunk 2077 has gone gold. A lot of stuff to get into, guys. As always, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton, and if you're brand new here, hit that red subscribe button down below, and we're gonna start today with the Nintendo Switch and the stock situation around this hybrid system, specifically the Animal Crossing themed Nintendo Switch. As we had talked previously about it starting to make its way into retail stores, it looks like Nintendo has pushed a large shipment out currently. In fact, I went by my local Walmart and there were a ton of them there. It was really weird, by the way, because do you remember this system came out? Everyone made like a mad scramble for stores, grabbed these like crazy, and they were just gone, right? So when I saw them just kind of sitting there on shelves, just hanging out, it was really weird, right? But I guess Nintendo just started remanufacturing these again, or they found them in like a warehouse somewhere with pallets of these systems. Hard to say. I would lean towards they started manufacturing these again because Animal Crossing is still hot, and this will technically be Animal Crossing's first holiday, so they figure, hey, maybe people want to buy the Animal Crossing themed Switch, so we'll start making it again. Why not? It would make a good holiday gift, right? For someone who likes Animal Crossing, they don't have a Switch yet. I mean, it's a good looking special edition system, I would say, right? So that makes a lot of sense to have it there alongside Animal Crossing, which I'm sure, even though it's sold a ridiculous amount of units, will still probably sell really well this holiday. So there we go. I would say though, while resellers probably are not happy seeing these just start to pop up again, you might still want to go grab one sooner rather than later. I don't know if Nintendo's going to discontinue them all of a sudden again. You never know, but resellers might try to grab them again and hold them for the holiday. So go out and take a look at your Target, your Best Buy, your Walmart. You'll probably find one right now. Also, we had heard, of course, about the Ghost of Tsushima big update that was going to be coming this fall, which is going to add a really cool multiplayer. Looks like we now know when that's happening. 10 days, October 16th, they put out a full trailer for it here. And this, of course, will introduce the Ghost of Tsushima Legends, which is a brand new co-op multiplayer mode. It, of course, has the different classes, and it looks great from everything I've seen, but I, of course, want to play it to see a bit more. They also have New Game Plus, a bunch of really cool collectibles thrown in there as well, and new trophies. So anyone who's a big trophy hunter, you're going to want to go back and start to pick up some new ones there as they'll be added. But I am excited for the multiplayer mode, and I'm hoping that when they start talking a bit about backwards compatibility in any games that will get patches, this is one that they have focused on, because I mean, having this multiplayer mode added seems like there's still a lot of life to this game, and it's one of my favorite games of the year. So yeah, I would like to play it again on the PS5. If they have some sort of patch available, that would be amazing, to maybe have the frame rate hit 60 completely across the board. Even faster load times. Load times are already really good after the initial load in. Like if you have to restart or like a checkpoint or something, it's very quick. So I guess even faster load times there. 4K across the board, a lot of things there, but very excited to check this out in about 10 days. Oh, and Microsoft did put out a large press release on Xbox Wire that talked about some of their accomplishments over this past year, but there was part of it that kind of led us on to the idea of more next generation gameplay coming pretty soon. You can see here, it says, we'll be sharing even more details on every game being fully optimized this holiday for the launch of Xbox Series X and S later this month, as well as showing more gameplay from these titles, so stay tuned for more. This is good because what we've seen so far in previews are just games being played through backwards compatibility without being optimized at all. They're basically just like, oh yeah, this system can work like an Xbox One X, so pop the disc in or load up your digital copy of the game, and it'll just brute force 60 frames per second out of it, right? And they've been able to do that with several games already. But if you take that game and you maybe design it more for the velocity architecture in the Xbox Series X and the SSD and the Zen 2 processor, all this stuff, right? You probably get better results and some interesting things out of that SSD for faster load times. So something to keep an eye on there. And I hope this also means that we'll see more of that Xbox Series S, as for a lot of people, that's a pretty compelling piece of hardware at $300. I'd like to see how it performs a little bit more with gameplay. And then, of course, next generation games. Let's see like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Sure, it's on current platforms as well, but they seem to be making a big push towards next gen as well. So let's just see more gameplay heading into release in November. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're starting right away with Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered. They put out a full trailer for it, which actually was pretty good. It was a pretty good trailer. It was like 2 minutes long. They tried to tell a story of someone trying to beat an old time from like 7 or 8 years ago or something on the original, and they were able to do it now with the new version of the game. But they also released a full website, tons of information here, and we're gonna go over some of the release dates, of course, and pricing. It's gonna be coming out November 6th. That'll be on PS4, Xbox, and PC. November 13th, though, on the Switch, so you will have to wait an extra week if you're a Switch owner there, but it will be $40 across the board, except on PC, where it will be $10 cheaper at $30. They will have full crossplay that also includes the Switch kind of taking part in that, so that's cool to see. They say they'll also have extra content, which includes an extra 6 hours of gameplay with more than 30 challenges. And you know what? Hot Pursuit was a fun game, back in the day, so I'll check it out, but I will say you might want to wait just to see how the quality of this turns out. Of course, sounds like it's going to be 30 frames on the base systems as well as the Switch, and on the enhanced system, so the Pro and then the One X would be 60 frames per second, and who knows, maybe it has some sort of patch that'll be there at launch because it's going to be right around when the next gen systems come out, so we'll see there. But then something strange happened, like I said. For some reason, Mexico's eShop decided to just list the thing. Like, somebody managed to download the game early and start showing off the game. And I will say, some of the gameplay clips that they showed of the game in handheld mode looked really, really good. So it does appear, at least at face value from what we've seen, that the port is good on the Switch. But I mean, tons of clips. They posted it initially on Reddit. No one seemed to believe them. And then they started posting images and video of them playing it. So that turned around pretty quick on everyone commenting on that thread. But I don't really know what happened here because the Switch version comes out a week after the other versions. But it's already out, technically. They fixed it. It was about a half an hour to 60 minutes that it was up like that. And what happened was, instead of going to the coming soon section where you would pre-order it, it just went immediately to recent releases and you were able to download it. After fixing it, it's now back to the coming soon section for pre-order. But the only thing I can think of here is they have to hold off the release for manufacturing of cartridges. It's very possible that it's just gonna take a little longer to get those copies in stores if they release them, of course, physically. Or I guess there's some sort of patch they need for day one and they're waiting for it to be certified, and that can take time to go through that. But either way, from what I've seen with those clips and the images, it looks good. 1080p apparently docked, 720p in handheld mode on the Switch, 30 frames per second. Seems about right for Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered coming up to the Switch from like the 360, for example. So exciting stuff there for Need for Speed fans, especially if you liked Hot Pursuit. I would check that one out, but like I said, see what reviews say for it first, and then we'll go from there. You know what, EA, after doing this, you've got to go back and figure out the licensing and get a Need for Speed Underground 2 remaster done. Come on, everybody wants it. Just put it out there. It's an easy cash grab for EA, right? Like I said, as long as they can figure out the licensing, or if you can't, do a Need for Speed Underground 3 and go with that. Next up, let's talk about the PlayStation 5 in Japan. Of course, we just had those preview events where people got to go in from different media outlets and YouTubers and try the system out with things like Astro's Playroom and Godfall, but it looks like they noticed something relatively quickly when it came to button prompts and confirm and cancel prompts. Check this out right here on Twitter. It says, wow, this is big news. PlayStation 5 will use the cross button to confirm by default for all regions, including Japan, who previously used circle to confirm for the past 26 years. Muscle memory frustration for the nearly 10 million PlayStation users in Japan coming up. And you know what? I felt this myself. That was with Final Fantasy VII, because if you remember, you'd have to use circle to actually confirm it. Cross was cancel. And Metal Gear Solid, that was the biggest one. When Metal Gear Solid came out, or even I guess Metal Gear Solid 2, right? Yeah. You'd use circle to confirm, and that threw me off, and I would end up going backwards in the menus pretty consistently, right? Because you go to any other game and it's like, oh, press cross to confirm and go forward into the next menu, and it would mess me up because I played a lot of Metal Gear Solid, I played a lot of Final Fantasy VII, and I came out of those games doing that same thing, right? So it was weird then, but this shouldn't surprise anyone necessarily for Sony, because they're moving more and more west to like the Western audience. Throughout the PlayStation 4's life, that's been their biggest thing, right? I mean, the PlayStation 4 released later in Japan, so you could kind of see it there as well as they did that, but now it's pretty obvious where their main focus is right now in the West, and just doing this kind of confirms it a bit, and it seems to be frustrating different gamers in Japan already, and I can see that. Now, you should be able to go into the system and swap them around. That's something that they did introduce on the PlayStation 4, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all games will follow that or even be set up to do that. So keep that in mind too. While it is something you can swap, doesn't necessarily mean that all games are going to follow that. And like I said, I ran into that myself with Final Fantasy and with Metal Gear Solid. But strange change of events there for Sony, but it's kind of expected, to be honest. And you know what? I'm really curious to see how the PlayStation 5 will sell in Japan. It's a big system, like it's a massive system. And we see Sony doing these kind of little changes and stuff right now where they're kind of working away from the Japanese audience, and the Switch is taking off there. So those first couple of weeks in terms of sales for Famitsu, for the PS5, it's gonna be very interesting this holiday. Next up, let's talk about Cyberpunk 2077. It's one of my most anticipated games of the year. It's been delayed multiple times, but it looks like it is finally happening. It is coming out this November. Of course, we also had the entire controversy around the crunch that was going on at their offices, but we can see here this tweet says, Cyberpunk 2077 has gone gold. See you in Night City on November 19th. Now, it's gone gold, which means it's complete. It's submitted, all of this stuff, but there should be a day one patch that I can guarantee will be fairly large, and that's most likely what they're crunching towards right now based on the reports for bug fixes. So naturally, we'll pop the game in, it'll install, and then it'll download some 10, 12, 15 gigabyte patch of some kind to fix a lot of those things. But I am happy to finally see this game ready to come out. Well, coming out. It's probably not ready to come out right this second with all the bug fixes they're doing, but ready to go for the most part for its release day, because this game has been in the works for so long. I mean, it's gonna end up being like an 8-year project, so I'm hoping it lives up to the hype. I'm hoping it doesn't disappoint, but I am excited to see it finally come out, and I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of people who have been working on it this whole time. Can you imagine working on a game for 8 years, and then you finally go gold and you get to see the finish line? That's gotta be a crazy feeling, but excited for Cyberpunk 2077. Looking forward to that on November 19th. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about the Department of Justice apparently arresting members of Team Xecuter. Now, we've talked about Team Xecuter before. They, of course, have come up with devices to circumvent security for the Switch, for example, especially the Switch Lite, because they showed off a way where you have to solder stuff to the chip itself and run a separate cable out, and it seemed like a ton of work, and I figured a lot of people wouldn't really do much with it, but they seem to sell. And then Nintendo came in and started knocking down resellers. We just talked about how a website was penalized $2 million, and then they still had to turn the website over to Nintendo, and Nintendo then made them destroy all of that inventory from Team Xecuter that they had. So yeah, Nintendo, they don't play around, but this time it seems that the Department of Justice went after members of Team Xecuter, and they posted this entire press release up here, and they go over what happened. Now, according to the Department of Justice, they've arrested 3 members, 2 of them in custody, that being Gary Bowser. Wow, what are the odds that Gary Bowser was one of the members there, Max Lorne, and then according to them, Yuning Chen is still in China. I doubt they'll probably see Chen anytime soon then, but they say these defendants line their pockets by stealing and selling the work of other video game developers, even going so far as to make customers pay a licensing fee to play stolen games. This conduct doesn't just harm billion-dollar companies, it hijacks the hard work of individuals working to advance in the video game industry. And they had like closed source code and all this, and there were accusations of them even stealing code, using copywritten code. They really split that community for the Switch hacking scene, because there are some that are making like custom firmware that's open source and all this, and they can do that. It really came down to Team Xecuter profiting heavily off of this, because of course you had the devices and then you'd pay for that, and oh, we're just doing it to load custom firmware. We're not doing it, of course, to play a bunch of pirated games, wink wink, right? Yeah, so this was going to happen eventually, especially after seeing how aggressive Nintendo was with a lot of different ROM sites, and we just talked about resellers. Nintendo was that aggressive with resellers. Of course, Team Xecuter was on the run pretty consistently over the past, decade now? It was gonna happen eventually, but there's still a lot of members out there for Team Xecuter, and I don't think this alone will just knock them out completely. So I'm sure they'll still update and probably even try to sell some of their hardware. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, definitely a big blow to Team Xecuter. And like I said, his last name was Bowser. What are the odds of that? And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Loki saying, I'd like to see a Tales of character in Smash. It's not out of the water since Bandai helps make Smash Ultimate and since it's been around for ages. Well, I have good news for you because it seems that at least in Japan, there have been a lot of comments as characters are unveiled for Smash, where of course people will then say, put this character in or put that character in. You can see this chart here where a person actually went through and basically cataloged all of the comments, added them up, and check out who was number one. This poll was from a little over a year ago now, but you can see right at the top, Lloyd Irving is right there from Tales of Symphonia. So you know what? They even had Lloyd above Sora for being asked for. And then of course you see Dante there as well. And then just a Monster Hunter. They just use Monster Hunter. There's no actual name, I guess, for the character that's memorable enough other than just Monster Hunter character. But Lloyd would be a cool character, I think. Now, there are, I'm sure, other characters that could be picked from for the Tales of series, but I mean, Tales of Symphonia was a classic in the Tales series, right? And Lloyd is very recognizable, so yeah, that would, I think, be pretty cool. I do still think it would have that effect of people going, who's Lloyd? Like, that would definitely happen. But, I mean, they put Terry in there, and people had the same thought there, who's Terry? So you know what, yeah. Put Lloyd in. I think it would be really cool, and it seems like the audience in Japan would get really excited. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. Enjoyed this video, guys. Hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. But there's Cyberpunk 2077 finally going gold after what feels like forever now, almost a decade of time for this game in development. Let me know what you think about that, and if you're excited for Cyberpunk. And then what about Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered going live? Like, as soon as they announced it, on the Switch eShop in Mexico, despite it coming out a week after the other versions. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.